Welcome back to the program. I'm joined now by Dr. Jay Barth of Hendrix College for some analysis on those poll numbers that we just revealed in the last segment there. I'm about as excited about these poll numbers showing us something different in the Arkansas electorate as I have been probably since the 2014 election in terms of I'm surprised.
Yeah. I mean, I think why it is so surprising is that, you know, as late as our spring poll, even when nationally Donald Trump was really starting to take some hits in terms of public opinion, in Arkansas he was really holding steady. I mean, Arkansans who had, you know, with nearly 60% voted for him last fall, had really hung tough with him. Now we're really starting to see some change, some real frustration seeming to build on the part of the Arkansas
and
electorate.
it's basically, if you just kind of group the approve and the disapprove, it's about a 50% approve and a 47% disapprove, right, which is very narrow, but the strength of the approval and the disapproval, that's what was amazing to me. 39% strongly approve, 40% strongly disapprove. Those are some heated numbers right there.
Yeah, this is the mother of all polarization around this guy. I mean, this is not subtle. Folks have really locked in at either extreme, and you know, there are a few folks in the middle who are still giving him a chance one way or the other, but it's pretty polarized. And I do think it's important to note, I mean, he is slightly above water in Arkansas, and you know, he's well below water nationally, so he's doing much better in Arkansas than most any place else. But we've just seen a lot of movement really swiftly.
How does it break out between Republicans, Democrats, Independents from the crosstabs?
Yeah, and this is an area where he is really having some challenges. So Democrats rejected Donald Trump really early, and they are still emphatically in the strongly disapprove. The group that he's having some problems with are actually Republicans. He's now down to a point where only about 66% strongly approve, and you know, you would expect that to be into the 80s, and it was into the 80s not that long ago.
And we do see that in some national polling still, where Republicans' strength for support for Donald Trump is still in the 80% range.
Yeah, so that seems to be something that's going on here. Independents, he's now underwater with independents, not as badly as with Democrats, of course, but the middle of the electorate seems to have really said, this guy is causing us some heartache.
We're going to get into a couple of different additional questions we asked about truthfulness, about expectations. Those are going to come a few days from now, about Russia, about potential impeachment. Those are some interesting results too. But one that we released this morning is his activity on Twitter. There is a strong disapproval of the way he communicates with the public. What can you read into that 23% approve, 56% disapprove? What does that tell you about the way he's communicating with voters? Yeah,
I mean, it's really wholesale rejection of kind of a key part of his public persona, which he has chosen this new media as a way to communicate directly with the public, and I think what is maybe seen as erratic, a little emotion driven rather than more thoughtful responses, really pushing folks away. I think some of the kind of maybe edginess, meanness in some of those tweets also problematic. And I think one thing that is interesting in the Trump numbers in general, and we see it on the Twitter numbers as well, is we're seeing a huge gender gap on Donald Trump and his behavior. You know, nationally last year we saw that big gender gap. We didn't see it quite as much in Arkansas.
I agree.
It was, but now it is open big time, and on all of these questions we see women much more disturbed by Donald Trump and his behavior. Men much more comfortable with him. Now he's still got trouble with men, and he's still got female supporters, but there is a big gap there.
Let's move to healthcare, and we got two questions there. Pretty obvious that it's another wholesale rejection of this repeal now, replace later. I think this is healthcare question, maybe a lot of what's driving some of this dissatisfaction with Donald Trump, and maybe even some additional questions we asked about support of congressmen that'll come out towards the end of the week. But when you look at what Asa Hutchinson is doing to kind of separate himself and stake out some ground in terms of healthcare, when you look at where voter opinion is on this, this is an extremely concerning issue for a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. It only lower than a third of the Arkansas electorate willing to go along with this repeal and replace sometime down the road approach.
Think that influences Bozeman or Cotton?
I don't know. I mean, this is not that different from national polling. I think it is maybe surprising that here in what has been a really red state for the whole Obamacare era, we're really starting to see Obamacare being seen as a more preferable option to nothing, to the end of Obamacare. And I think there's also in that the replace part of this, some evidence of some distrust of whether Congress really has what it takes to get it right down the road. I don't think there's a lot of commitment, a lot of confidence here that Congress can really pull it off in a 2-year period or some other period of time.
Lastly, on the Medicaid question that we asked, I still see some iffiness in all of this here, and 44% didn't have an opinion on that question in terms of, should we kind of protect the Medicaid expansion money that has come through the private option in Arkansas Works. That doesn't surprise me so much because I don't think people understand the nuance as much of what goes into that health care. But when you just look at the yes and
says, it's complicated.
It's complicated. But if you do look at the yes and the no there, it's almost a 2-to-1.
Yeah. I mean, there's not, and we have seen movement on that issue in general across time. Early in the earliest days of the private option, what was then the private option, Arkansans like a little more iffy on it. Over time, we have seen some growth in support for it, but I think a recognition that there's a lot of nuance here, a lot of question marks here. I was actually a little surprised by just how large that no opinion or don't know was. I mean, it has been an issue that's been talked about a lot in the Arkansas context. Right. I was a little surprised it was that large. I wasn't surprised it was larger than on some other questions because it's complex, but I was surprised it was that large. But I think that you're right, the 2-to-1 on support for the ultimate question among those who do have an opinion, those are the folks who are driving the conversation on these issues. Yep.
All right. You and I are going to be talking some more over the next few days as we roll out more. He's Dr. Jay Barth with Hendrix College. As always, good to be with you.
Great, Roby.
All right. We're back with Rex Nelson right after this.